Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast. And the good news is it's another day of the offseason, which means there's more reason for delusional thoughts. And someone in the chat is already asking, who are we trading today? So just more reason for us to talk about the potential of the 2024 Chicago Cubs. Cody Delmendo, Ryan Herrera, no Luke Stuckmeyer today. Going through some he's got a family issue today, so that's why he's not here. So I'm stepping in. I'm going to try and be Luke Stuckmeyer once again. Niren is asking, Ryan, did you get the virus? Do you still feel okay after yesterday's events at the GM meetings?
I feel fine. No toilet trips, no for either reason, on either side. So I'm feeling good.
Awesome. The weather looks great. I got to say, the sun is out today. We have the CHGO Bears tailgate this afternoon for Thursday Night Football. I'm going to head over there after we do our show, and I'm excited that at least it seems like there's going to be decent weather. So good for us both having decent weather, I guess, on this Thursday. So I don't know where exactly to start, because I wasn't planning to run this show, but it's the last day of the GM meetings, correct?
Yes, it is the last day of the GM meetings.
So I guess we could just start with like our overall takeaways from it. Obviously some more rumors have come out today, and we'll talk about those. But I guess for you, Ryan, since you're there, to this point, what has been your biggest takeaway for the Cubs and how they've, I guess, kind of put themselves, it seems like they're in a lot of rumors here at the GM meetings, and that's not something I feel like we could say these last few years.
Yeah, well, I think when I look at it, and having talked to Jed the last couple of days, and I don't get the impression that his goal is to win the offseason, so to speak, like it's not like outbid every team for every top free agent kind of thing. Like, I mean, no one does that anyway, but I definitely don't get the impression that he's looking to throw out like Steve Cohen type money for to improve this roster. But I do we've talked about it with the Craig Counsell thing. Like he made a move. He made a move geared at improving this roster in an area that he felt could be improved. A major move. He made a major move to improve a roster in an area that he thought could be improved. I don't think that's going to be the end of it, right? Anyone that's talking about the Jed Hoyer or Tom Ricketts cheap, whatever, like I don't see that being the end of what Jed Hoyer does this offseason, because I don't see them running it back next year. You know what I'm saying? Like if their biggest move is hiring Craig Counsell and they run it back with mostly the same roster next season, I mean, I don't know how many wins Craig Counsell gets them, you know, from this season to next season. So I don't see the Cubs running it back with the same group next year. I do see Jed Hoyer making improvements to the roster, whether that's, through trades or free agents. And again, I wrote about this last night, but he did not commit to giving out big money, but he also did not, say that he wasn't going to do that, right? He said, he's like, the plan isn't to have the biggest and most aggressive and boldest offseason, but if it does, that's because things lined up the right way and the right moves became like clear, and they were able to get those done. So I don't like to sum it all up. I don't expect the Cubs to just throw all their chips in and go all in this offseason, but I do expect big improvements to the roster on top of the Craig Counsell signing.
Yeah, that should be exciting for everyone watching in the YouTube chat. And also it excites me because I've been dreaming the last couple of days. I watched the entire video that we put up on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel of Jed Hoyer talking yesterday, about 30 minutes, talking about all kinds of dudes that he was being asked about, whether they're free agents or guys that are on the roster. Yesterday we talked a lot about Morel and how he's going to play first base in winter ball. He had a lot to say about that. So I highly recommend checking out that video on our YouTube channel on top of Ryan's article at ALLCITY.com. Shameless plug. Big of me. Credit to me. That's very Luke Stuckmeyer of me to do. So I guess for me, the biggest takeaway I kind of hinted at is just it is exciting to see the Cubs and a lot of rumors. And one of them, came out today. John Heyman was doing like some live bit for like Bleacher Report. I don't know. I on their app or something, and he was talking about the offseason and like got like rumors he's heard, and he linked Yamamoto to the Cubs. I didn't get to watch it. I just saw everyone talking about it on Cubs Twitter. So I don't know exactly what he said, but I'm not necessarily surprised to see that they're linked to a guy like him. We know that Jed Hoyer went and scouted him during the season, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Ryan. But with Stroman opting out, that opens up a rotation spot, and he's highly touted, and I don't know what his market's going to be, but once that his posting passes, or however you want to call it, and the Cubs can make an offer, I'm intrigued to see where that market goes, and I just think he would be a great addition to this rotation in terms of things that I've been wanting in terms of a top of the rotation arm. So,
yeah. With Yamamoto, like we've seen it, right? He's going to be there's going to be a huge bidding war for him, right? Like it's not going to be easy to bring in Yamamoto, and there's going to be a lot of teams that are disappointed because only one team can have him, right? But as far as being linked to him, and I think this goes for the Cubs and any big free agent, like I would expect the links to happen because, again, like I said, like I expect Jed Hoyer to make some bigger moves. It's not going to be – he may not be, again, the biggest and boldest offseason in all of baseball, but I do see him making some big additions to this group. And if that's Yamamoto, that's great. You mentioned Marcus Stroman. Obviously, he opted out over the weekend. And not only does that open up a starting rotation spot, but it also opens up $21 million of money that they could use. That's financial flexibility, which we've heard Jed Hoyer talk the past couple off seasons about having that financial flexibility. Back then he was talking about intelligent spending. He's not really saying those words anymore, but he still values financial flexibility. And yeah, Stroman opting out gives him that. Whether that leads to Yamamoto coming to Chicago or not remains to be seen. But they have put themselves in position where, again, for Yamamoto and any big realistic free agent, like they've put themselves in position through, improvements to the club, getting another manager, a new manager in Craig Counsell, and having or creating the kind of financial flexibility that they have now. But they've put themselves in position to be in on a lot of those free agents. So to see them be linked to Yamamoto doesn't surprise me at all if that's who they, envision being a part of this rotation.
Yeah, the YouTube chat's going pretty crazy about the Yamamoto stuff. Craig saying, I really hope the Cubs sign him. Trevor D says that he did watch the thing that Heyman did, said that he said they're set to be aggressive and link them to Otani, Yamamoto, Bellinger, and to do possible trades, which we pretty much have known that in general. So I hadn't really heard anything about Yamamoto in general until today in terms of the Cubs being, interested, outside of the fact that we knew that Jed Hoyer went to Japan and watched him. But with Stroman opting out, it opens up that spot. And I just think that it kind of makes a lot of sense. And I do think for him specifically, it makes a lot of sense with Seiya Suzuki already on the team. And so there will be some familiarity for him when he comes over from Japan. And, we watched with Seiya here in his first year in Chicago, the ups and downs that he had. And, he did that all on his own. He had to adjust to Chicago, the Midwest, America on his own. And perhaps maybe with Seiya here, for someone like him, Yamamoto I'm talking about, maybe he's thinking about how that transition might be easier with having a familiar face around. That's just kind of the way I look at it in terms of, those things you can't measure.
Yeah, we'll see how this all plays out. But I think, like I said, the Cubs are going to be in on a lot of these guys. And who knows how long that process is going to take for Yamamoto specifically, right? Like, I know Seiya was a different time because of the whole lockout, and he couldn't sign until after spring training, or pretty much after spring training started. But like, who knows how long that would have taken had it been a regular off season, right? So I saw someone in the chat or someone say something somewhere yesterday that like the NFL and the NBA sign all their best free agents right away, and MLB waits
Godfather.
months. Yeah, it might have been the Godfather, and there's like, and then MLB waits months. I'm like, that's so very true, because like, I get a feeling some of these guys it's gonna be a while till we truly see how their market plays out, and then even longer till we see, who actually gets it.
The only thing that I'll push back a little bit on that is that at least last offseason, we finally got to see moves be made in like November and December.
Sure.
It's not like we were going into February and the Cubs still hadn't made a move like we kind of saw before, the last, handful of years before last offseason. So I know the collective bargaining agreement and all that had a lot to do with that. But, I envision, the rest of this month in December to be a very, anxiety-ridden time, and if you're a Cubs fan, just riding the roller coaster of all these rumors and stuff. So, we'll see. But I in general, yes, I agree. I wish they would all just sign on day one, and we could just just have an incredible high, or just be really, really sad all at once. I don't want to have to ride it all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be great, right? If we already knew the Cubs were signing, it'd be really nice. It'd make things a lot easier.
Yeah,
but that's not how baseball works.
Would be nice to be able to just start projecting. All right, are we going 162-0 or not? So yeah. Now another guy, we're talking about Yamamoto. I have to bring it up, and I feel bad because Luke is not here, and he's been spewing Otani, not even just this year, but last year too. Otani was linked to the Cubs again today. Yesterday it was Bob Nightingale. Today, Mark Feinsand from MLB.com linked Otani to the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he did it was in his article on MLB.com. He did a poll with 14 executives. I have it written down here. This is what he said. One NL executive who picked the Dodgers for Otani believes their greatest competition will not come from another West Coast team, but rather a team that made headlines this week with its managerial hire. He doesn't seem to be driven by the money, so I don't think it's just the dollars. That's when we're talking about Otani there. I think it's all about the fit for him. I think the Cubs will push hard for him. And then Feinsand also said the Dodgers, Giants, Mets, Red Sox, Angels, Mariners, Rangers, and the Cubs are believed to be the top contenders to land Otani this offseason. So, listen, Nightingale says it, that's one thing. But when someone else says it, like him, like Feinsand, I can get up for it. I can start to actually believe. I'm just really, I think more so, I'm just happy to see the Cubs are even part of the conversation at this point. I want to dive it all the way in. I'm not yet, but I want to. I'm starting to feel like this is a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing goes. Of course, the Cubs are going to be in on Shohei Otani, considering where they're at now. And when he came over from Japan last time, they were one of two maybe non-West Coast teams that were in on him, right?
Right.
And we actually had, speaking of Jed Hoyer yesterday, he was asked just kind of he wasn't commenting on Shohei Otani right now, but he was asked about just back then, the meetings that they had and just the stuff. And I think one of the things he said was that obviously Shohei Otani wanted to hit, and at the time there was no DH in the National League. And maybe that, that might have played a part in why he didn't want to go to the Cubs or just the National League team in general, was that he wanted to, pitch and hit, and, maybe teams weren't as willing to let him play in the field and pitch on different days. So now the DH in the National League. So maybe that gives the Cubs a little bit of a leg up, and hey, now that's not a roadblock anymore, right? I don't know. There's going to be, again, a lot of teams in on Shohei Otani. He's the number one free agent for a reason. I don't know how the injury and him not pitching next season, like it's still so unclear how that's going to affect his market. I don't even know if it's going to affect it that much. You know what I'm saying? Like it may, because he is, I guess the idea is he'll be able to pitch after that, right? Once he's fully recovered. So he will be able to be that whoever signs him, hope that he would be that 2A star again. Does that really affect his market like that much? It's going to ding it somewhat at least, but like how much it really affects it, I don't know. But as far as the Cubs go, like, yeah, he's a guy eventually, right? Like a couple years, if he's back to pitching like an ace, like that would be great to have at the top of the rotation to pair with Justin Steele. But just to have the left-handed power, which is something we've talked about for like 2-3 seasons now, is the left-handed power. On top of they've already lost Cody Bellinger and potentially have to re-sign him. But then you're adding Shohei Otani, who's the best lefty slugger in baseball. Like that fills a need just in itself. And then but again, I don't know what the market's going to look like. I don't know how much what the contract's going to look like. So if it gets to a level that seems uncomfortable for the Cubs, like I don't know if they'd be willing to just keep raising the bidding on Shohei Otani. If it gets to a bad level, if it gets to a really, really high level that even to us looks like, oh crap, like this is getting really high.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the reasons that I've been so like Bellinger's number one priority for me is the fact that I want to dream about Otani coming to the Cubs, but I just refuse to let myself believe that it could actually happen. And now with what's happened these last 2 days, I'm starting to creep towards that. And so if it becomes a real thing and the Cubs can get Otani, then it actually in some aspects kind of makes sense that perhaps the Cubs would move Christopher Morel to first base next year if they, if that's where they feel like he can be, or at least use as a position, I guess. Obviously I'm still open to the possible trade of Juan Soto and all this stuff, but like with how things could potentially play out, I can get past not bringing Bellinger back if you're signing Shohei Otani. I can easily get past it. I just haven't fully believed that it actually could happen. I just been holding myself back from dreaming about something like that fully. There's always like I always say, it's just like, don't let me talk myself into it. And with these reports the last 2 days from Nightingale and now Feinsand, it's like, God, come on. Like they're
talking you into it.
Yeah. This would be so huge for, everyone talks about ownership being cheap and all this. The revenue they would make from Shohei Otani alone through the TV network from Marquee Sports Network with all the people in Japan that would probably be subscribing on top of all the Cubs fan base that just hasn't got it because the team hasn't been good enough for them. You're bringing in arguably, if not the best hitter in baseball to the Cubs. Like that would create so much revenue for this organization. And, it also would definitely put the Cubs in the running to at least be an NL Central Division title contender at the very least. So, and it would just like to be able to go to Wrigley Field and watch Shohei Otani for 80 games a year or whatever, that would truly, it would be a special thing to be able to do, considering the kind of player he is. Mm-hmm. They would make so much money back in that investment that I couldn't even tell you how much, like even estimate the kind of money that they can make back in that.
Yeah. Well, trust me, the Cubs are very much aware of like how big of how much revenue he would bring in just on his star power alone in America and in Japan. Like the Cubs are not naive to that fact. But I think every team knows that too. Every team that's in on him knows how much or how big star power that he has in 2 different countries. So, but I mean, you're right. Like if the Cubs bring him in, not only does that improve the roster tremendously just from the hitting side and, in the future, potentially from the pitching side. But just, the money that he brings in from jersey sales, from people buying Marquee Sports Network subscriptions, whatever it is, like that's going to that's going to be huge. And like whatever the price tag on Otani is, like it's eventually going to even out based on what he brings. So I know the like the luxury tax and that kind of stuff is obviously going to play a factor into it, and how much they're willing to go into it to get him, AAV, all that type of stuff. But it is very valid a point that like the money he's going to bring you just by having him on the roster it's big. It's big money, and teams know that for sure. The Cubs know that for sure.
This is for Brendan when he reads it back, but Gary Rockrose in the chat says Otani would make me forget about Eric Sogard. Sorry,
he's gonna listen. He's gonna be so angry when he gets
there. Yeah. I find it the chat is like it's been so one way or the other when it comes to like these potential Cubs, whether it's Otani or Yamamoto, Bellinger, Soto. He'd be via trade. It is very interesting to get other people's opinions on it, just because it's healthy, but to see other people's view on stuff. But I don't know. I don't know how you can't want Shohei Otani on this team moving forward. Our friend, the godmother, Barb, she says, he's going to cost $500 million and then needs Tommy John surgery. Well, they've already said that he's going to be able to hit next year. So at least you have him as a DH next year. And the Cubs had DH problems all of last year. So, and then hopefully you're able to insert him into the rotation in 2025. So I obviously you need a lot to happen there. But I mean, this guy's got not one, not two, but multiple years of just being if not the best player in baseball, top three at the very least.
Yeah. And if he's pitching, he could be two of the top players in baseball, right? In one person. So I'm with you, man. Like it would be, I would obviously be a big money risk, especially if you're giving him money, like in the belief that he's going to pitch at a very high level again. Like I think that will factor into it. And obviously if he doesn't pitch again, or if he doesn't pitch at a high level again, like that, then you're looking at a very expensive, while still an all-star slugger, a very expensive all-star slugger if the pitching doesn't come back around. So that's a risk, right? But he's the top player on the market for a reason right now.
Right. And I still feel like, because this, like, people like kind of underrate this, like he's an athlete. So if he can't go back to pitching, you can't tell me that you can't find a position for him down the road. I just don't see how you couldn't. So again, if it happens, we'll talk about that one day, and I look forward to being able to talk about Shohei Otani as a Chicago Cub and if he's pitching or not. So
I was going to say earlier when you mentioned Luke not being here, this popped in my head. I remember Nick Madrigal supporter. I don't remember where he went.
How could I forget about Nick Madrigal supporter in the YouTube chat?
Luke would change his YouTube name to Shohei Otani supporter. Like that would be, you see him popping up in the YouTube chat. He's Shohei Otani's number one Shohei Otani supporter.
Yeah, number one. Yeah, for sure.
That's who he is.
He literally has been talking about it since the moment CHGO Cubs started.
He's been ready for it.
Right. So, those are like the two big rumors I've heard come out today from, the national media. But obviously, and people pointed out in the chat too, they still have to make some of these smaller moves too. And, Shohei Otani isn't going to just instantly make them a World Series contender. They have to get better in the bullpen. I've seen a lot of people commenting on the bullpen. They need, maybe a couple role players to fill some spots. If they don't get Yamamoto, they still got to figure out the pitching, right? Like, you're probably not bringing Marcus Stroman back. You gotta fix that hole. If it's not from within, which at this point I don't think it will be on opening day at least. So they have to figure that out. And so obviously there is more that they have to do. But when you're talking about the big fish, it's just exciting to see the Cubs are part of literally all of the conversation. All of it, and it's actually very, very refreshing. So
considering what the last couple off seasons have been, I mean, even last season, the shortstop market, right? The Cubs were in on that, even though they weren't planning on going in to win. It was still like exciting to see and just read rumors or talk to people and and hear these things about the Cubs are talking to all these shortstops. The Cubs had this meeting with this shortstop, whatever, and they ended up with one of them, right? They got Andrew Swanson. I thought like that was a pretty exciting time, obviously, considering what the last, obviously 2021 and 2022 have been. Even 2022, right? Like the Seiya Suzuki kind of market, right? Like that was fun to follow and to see. But like now, it's not just one player at a time. Like now, it's like every single player is talking to the Cubs. Is what it feels like. So, I'm with you. Like it's just obviously for fans, it's an exciting time for me. It's exciting because I'm talking to people at GM meetings and just hearing different things, and it's it's going to be a process, right? It's still going to probably be a while until we start to see some of these dominoes fall, but when they do, it's going to be a pretty crazy time. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw the Godfather Collada saying, I think he said something about pitching being his number one priority or whatever, and then I see Eva Wax said, think Hader might not be an option, but who else do you guys want to see as a closer? And yeah, I mean, the closer position is a very interesting one because it's like, yeah, you'd love to go an opening day with like a bona fide closer, like one that's named and not go like do what they've done these last few off seasons or not off seasons, but beginning of the season, and you're going in with like a not named closer, but you see the same guy out there every time. Mm-hmm. I would like for them to have someone that's like, that's the guy. I am intrigued to know, like, I would love to be a fly on the wall in their, in those conversations with Jed on what he thinks in terms of trying to fix that, because I just don't think they're going to spend big money on a closer, not with like where the payroll's at and with like the other improvements they need. And again, like you can talk about the 2016 Cubs, like they didn't have a closer until after the trade deadline when they traded for Chapman. I'm not saying that the position isn't important, but I am saying that in some aspects, it's not the most important thing. You got to have bullpen guys that are good that can even get you to that guy. I don't know. I lean to believe that they're going to do the same type of things that they've done with the bullpen the last few years. Not saying they're just going to bring in some no-name dudes that you hope that they can unlock or whatever. But I think they could bring in some bullpen guys that are experienced and have pitched well in recent years, but I just don't see them bringing in a big name closer at all. I think they are still going to try and develop that guy, run it back with ALLCITY perhaps as that closer. That's just how I feel, and I understand that that's probably not going to make people happy in the YouTube chat, but that's just how I feel that they think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I like a Josh Hader I don't see that happening. If it does, like you're bringing in a really good closer, obviously. But I like the kind of money he's probably going to command. Like we see Jed, like we've seen what Jed's done over the last few years, and for the most part, it's been good, right? He's built solid bullpens out of bringing in undervalued or underappreciated relievers on the market, and putting him in the pitch lab or letting Tommy Hotovy and those guys work with them and getting some good stuff. Like this year, I wouldn't even say it was a step back because it like that doing that method always came with risks, but I don't see him going the opposite direction and spending a lot of money on the bullpen. I do think like Adbert before he got hurt was on a great run. I think he blew his like last two save opportunities maybe. But I've talked about it. It was like 22 out of 23 saves to start like the season before those last two. I think it could be. I mean, and this is not reporting or anything. It's just me kind of thinking of ideas for that. Like, what if they went with Adbert to start the year, right? Go through, and obviously, you got to see if Adbert performs the second year as a closer, right? What if you get to a point where, Adbert isn't exactly an elite closer, but he's been fine, but you get closer to the trade deadline and a closer becomes available, right? Mm-hmm. Like maybe not saying it's an Aroldis Chapman type trade like 2016, but like what if they get there and it's And it's okay, like we can upgrade the closer position and have Adbert still there too as well while we're making a run to the playoffs kind of thing, right? Like that's an idea that popped in my head, and I'm like, I don't think that's the worst idea. I think Adbert was fine as a closer. He may not be elite level closer, but he did he did a really good performance last season once he got that closer's job. And I'm not saying they have to go in next season with him as their opening day closer, but I also don't think that's like a worst case scenario thing either. I think that's a fine option if that's where they get to. And then obviously they just have to build out the rest of the bullpen. And it's easy enough for us to say they got to be right on some of those veteran guys they'll bring in, but they got to be right on them, right? They gotta hit on them because Fulmer, like he was supposed to be the closer, didn't work out. He was able to be a more high leverage guy, but obviously eventually that didn't work out because he got hurt at the end. Brad Boxberger was just hurt the whole year. Like those are the two veteran guys, and mixed to bad results for the both of them. So again, easy enough for us to say they got to hit on those, but they got to hit on them.
Absolutely.
They do.
Whoever they bring in to fix the bullpen, for them to stay healthy, they need to start eating hero bread, Ryan.
Sorry, say that again. I was reading the chat.
I thought I gave you a great transition. I was saying that, whoever they bring in to fix the bullpen, they better start eating hero bread. That way they stay on the field because it's great for your overall wellness and stuff.
Sorry, the chat was distracting me when you did that. It was a great transition, but what's even greater than that transition is hero bread. Why did we start using hero bread, Cody?
Because it's really good for, like I said, for our overall health and wellness. It's soft and fluffy. It's delicious, tasty, flavorful. High in fiber, ultra low net carbs. I mean, I could keep going, Ryan.
Yeah, you need a low carb option to fit your lifestyle or dietary constraints. Founder Cole Glass baked 100 muffins per day before he found the perfect blend that fit his allergy constraints. That's what pushed him to start Hero Bread. This bread is soft, fluffy, and delicious, tasty, flavorful, scrumptious. Got primary nutritional interest, high fiber, ultra low net carbs, 0 grams of sugar per slice. If you want to use our discount code for the first purchase, that's CHGO for 10% off at hero.co. Hero makes sliced breads, buns, and tortillas that are available on hero.co and Amazon. Secondary nutrition, fewer calories than the leading national brand, 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. Right now, Hero Bread is offering the CHGO fam 10% off their first order. Just go to hero.co and use our code CHGO to save on Hero Bread today. That's hero.co to save 10% today. I'll do better next time.
You're all good. We're like on the fly here with no Luke Stuckmeyer. It's big of us and credit to us for still finding a way to do the show.
The show goes off the rails without Luke Stuckmeyer.
It does. It absolutely does. You know what else goes off the rails? It's Brewers fans at Miller Park, urinating on their concourse, and which because of that, they need new flooring at Miller Park, in my opinion. Maybe they could get that fixed with Empire today. All right. You get to shop at home. You get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring. So of course they have copycats, but they can't beat us on quality, service, speed. So they advertise low quality products that they simply won't carry. They won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of our selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. Their virtual floor designer is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. Is easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. Shopping for floors at a big box store can be frustrating. You might talk to someone today who was working in plumbing yesterday. Flooring is all Empire today does. They live and breathe flooring. so you can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. They pride themselves on convenient shop-at-home service. They help customers shop for floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what their new floors will look like in their homes, lighting and decor, so they can make an informed decision. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details.
Wonderful.
I went with like the flooring thing with the Brewers and Miller Park because in the second segment I wanted to talk about Milwaukee because it's kind of came out today that perhaps they could be selling some pieces now that they've lost their GM who went to the Mets. Obviously, Craig Counsell is a Chicago Cubs manager now. Emphasize he left the Brewers to go to the Cubs, and they got some guys coming up at the end of 2024. Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and I think Willie Adames. And then Devin Williams, his contract or his control with the Brewers is up in 2025. So they're kind of in this like weird position. In some aspects, I kind of feel bad for Brewers fans because I'm getting kind of like flashbacks to this feels very 2021 or pre-2021 Cubs for me with what they got coming up here this season. I'm interested to see what they do this offseason, but Ken Rosenthal reported today, this is from his article from The Athletic, executives at this time of the year are always careful to tell reporters they are fielding calls on their players rather than shopping them. In that sense, the Brewers would say they are acting no differently than any club, but industry sources tell a different story. Those sources, briefed on the Brewers' discussions but not authorized to discuss them publicly, say the team is open to moving virtually any player on its roster this winter. So I am curious. I mean, I could sit here and dream about Corbin Burns coming to the Brewers, but I don't think Milwaukee's going to be, unless the Cubs sent a absolute haul for Corbin Burns. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think for the division, for when you want to talk about the Cubs competing for the NL Central next season, I think it's huge news that the Brewers could potentially be selling off pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I think 2024 was kind of looked at as like a last kind of hurrah season for them, unless they, retooled a little bit.
Right.
But now, I mean, Woodruff, is he missing all of next season or just like most of it, something like that, right? I think it's at least most of it. He won't be around for a while. And obviously, Craig Counsell has just become the manager of the Cubs. So, like, it's not like a total surprise, right? It feels like they had a great run, obviously, like as much as you hate to admit it, Cody. Like playoffs 5 times in 6 years. 5 times in 6 years is a very good run for a team that had only made it like 4 times to the playoffs in their entire history prior to that. And Craig Counsell was a big part of that. That starting rotation was a good part of that. Christian Yelich was a good part of that for a while. But now it's kind of felt like to this point, you lose Brandon Woodruff. Corbin Burns and his relationship with the Brewers kind of soured after that arbitration this past offseason. Things didn't look like they were on an upward trajectory for the Brewers, in my opinion. So it's not a big surprise. It remains to be seen what exactly they do. Like, they still have to hire a manager, right, and see what they do with that. But I can't, considering who's going to be free agents coming up, and just what the attrition might look like for the roster the next couple seasons. Like, even if it's a retool, like I running it back with this team again is going to be tough. So maybe a smaller rebuild or something like that is in store for the Brewers before they try to figure something out. But considering Ken Rosenthal's reporting that they're ready to listen on virtually anyone on the roster, that's a pretty big signal that like the Brewers aren't. Like, the Brewers may not be the favorites to win the NL Central anymore. Like, I think, and that's for Cubs fans. That's like music to the Cubs fans' ears, right? Because like they've been doing it for a while. It's for a Cubs team looking to come up, right? And you have the Brewers and the Pirates kind of right behind them, or even at their level as far as like their trajectory. The Cardinals are trying to retool and figure their stuff out. There's good teams in this, or there's going to be good teams in this division, especially when you consider how many good farm systems are in this division.
Yeah.
Is everyone going to be big spenders? No, but everyone's going to have good players coming up for the most part. So the Cubs, this may be the time, like knowing the Brewers are starting to potentially come down, this may be the time for the Cubs to take back the division and try to hold it for a while,
Yeah, no, I said this towards the end of the year in season that I felt like the NL Central going into 2024 could take a huge step in terms of, I don't know, getting some respect from around the league in terms of the teams being better, maybe a more competitive division. I don't think the Cardinals are going to lose 90 games again. The Reds, that with all the young talent that they have, the big question remains is, will they spend? Will they fix their pitching? Will Hunter Green finally turn into the ace that they drafted and, become that guy? I think there's a high ceiling for him. But obviously, they still have a ton of holes. They fell apart in September as well. The Pirates are a team that kind of low key scare me. I feel like they could be a lot like the Cubs next year. O'Neal Cruz was out the entire year. But the thing is like, will they spend? That's all between the Reds and the Pirates, and I guess you can throw in Milwaukee for most of their history. It's like, will they ever try and go over the top to make their team a real contender? And they just never do. So that leaves the Cardinals and the Cubs to me. And like, I just refuse to believe that the Cardinals are going to be that bad again next year. They're rumored to be out there they want to add like 3 starting pitchers, 2 via free agency, maybe 1 via a trade. And they still have a ton of young talent. I just think that they're too good of an organization. I can't believe I'm saying that, to be that bad again. So I kind of think it just kind of adds to my point on how I feel like the Cubs need to just go, not necessarily go completely above and beyond like the Padres and Mets, but they need to make a statement this offseason. And whether it's, we were talking about Otani or Yamamoto or bringing back Bellinger or whatever, they gotta act big, because they're the only team in this division that has the kind of money that a lot of these other big market teams do. And you just don't ever see the other 4 teams, spend like the Cubs have in the past. And with the Cubs having a farm system that they have now, kind of like you hinted earlier, with the fact that they have the kind of resources they have, it should theoretically put them over the top of any other team in this division. That's just what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, that you're talking about the money, and that's the biggest difference maker between the Cubs and the rest of the division, is that, like, I don't remember, was it MLB.com's like team rankings that had like 4 of the Central teams, in like the top 7 or something like that. Like that, there's good farm systems all throughout this division. But like you said, it's like, what makes the difference is the Cubs have resources that the other 4 teams just don't. Right, the other 4, like Milwaukee's the smallest market in baseball. The other teams aren't that much bigger, right? Like the Cubs have the resources, the market, like all that stuff. They have that's what they hold over these other teams. So they've gotten the farm system to a level where it's at the level of the rest of the teams in the division, or even better than some of them. And they have money to spend, and just resources in general that other teams don't have. I think that's the biggest difference maker. So if, like you said, if the Cubs decide to go and make a statement this offseason, like they can, because they have the ability to do that with their financial flexibility and their resources. And not saying they have to get to the level of where Atlanta and the Dodgers are right now in one offseason, because that's very hard to do. And as we've seen with the Mets and the Padres, like it doesn't always work out. It's not a guarantee if you just spend all the money, but they can make some bigger moves to really improve this roster at a time when the division is in flux and you don't know who's going to be the favorite to win the division next season. So I think that's a point where, do the Cubs absolutely need to be World Series contenders on opening day? I mean, that would be cool, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be possible, or it doesn't have to be reality, right? But should they be pretty solid, or could they be pretty solid NL Central favorites on opening day? I don't see why that's not a possibility. So they have that ability to do that this offseason if they make the right moves and decide to spend the money where it's needed.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why I brought up the Brewers story that came out there, because if they sell some pieces, if they trade Burns and they already aren't going to have Woodruff next year, they're going to be taking a huge step back in my opinion. Unless the magic of some of their young players that we just have never heard of that somehow play well, like, continues. I don't know, but it just seems like they are on the back end of like their era, like whatever you want to call their era, and the Cubs need to take advantage. They absolutely need to take advantage if that is the case. I don't think Milwaukee's going to trade Corbin Burns to the Cubs no matter what.
No.
I think the Cubs would have to absolutely just automatically
blow
lose
them away.
Trade. They would have
to blow them away with an offer to get that.
Like, they would have to probably send Horton and something like that. Just even though there's only 1 year left, I think it's simply just because it's a division rival.
Yeah. And
we just took Craig Counsell from them. Like, they would have to literally be blown away by it. And
I think without the Craig Counsell thing, it would have been hard anyway. But now that they went and got Craig Counsell out from underneath the Brewers and really the Mets and some other teams, like, after that, it's probably going to make it harder for that front office to want to deal with the Cubs, especially one of their best pitchers.
Exactly. So, who knows? A guy can dream, but if there was one guy on their roster that I would love to have on the Cubs next year is Corbin Burns. But whatever. All right. So there's that. What's we got Thursday Night Football tonight, and we're doing a watch party with our good friends over at Circa Sportsbook. It's going to be at Joe's on Weed, which is in Lincoln Park. We had our draft party there, our CHGO Bears draft, NFL draft party there, or like back in April. Great place to do like concerts and stuff. Food's good. Obviously, there's going to be Goose Island there. It's going to be a fun time. I saw Gary in the chat. I know he's going to be at the tailgate today. I'm sure he's going to be at Joe's on Weed as well for the watch party. So look forward to seeing anyone who's there at the tailgate going to the watch party. Thanks to our friends at Circa. There's 3 reasons why I love Circa. All right. The tight money line splits is one. The games will strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use a -115 or -120 split. Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. So if you won $330 some on a parlay like I did last night, Circa is not going to take away your opportunity for some boosts or good things that they try to help you win more money on, right? That's why they encourage bettors to develop and explore all sports betting apps available. That way you can just see how great Circa is and also be able to compare the lines from each sports book. And finally, their customer service is second to none. It's awesome. There are real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events like the one we have tonight, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Text GAMB to 833-234 or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Wonderful. What else you got for me, Cody?
I need you to tell me about your experience at Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, Ryan. I heard it was great. No, you need me to do it? Okay. Are you okay? Yeah. I was there, so I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to ask everyone in the chat if you're in the market for a new vehicle. If you are, then we have some really great news for you. Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fox Lake have just joined the CHGO team at Ray. CDJR, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and find unforgettable savings. And right now, during Ram Power Days at Ray CDJR, only in Fox Lake, you'll be able to secure 0% financing or 17% off new Ram models. But that's not all. Explore their newly renovated showroom and take advantage of limited time 7-year anniversary savings. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, when you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, because they are the only team we recommend, visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or RayCDJR.com. Today, serving the community since 1963. I'm assuming that your app, like, I mean, I thought we discussed that you were going to read that one, but hey, we picked it up.
Yeah. I'm at the GM meetings right now, Cody. Do you have any other questions? And anything you want to know about what's been going on over here?
No. I have one thing left. I was just going to bring up the fact that Jason Benetti has left the White Sox and is going to the Tigers to be their play-by-play guy. And it's a very shocking news. And I couldn't believe it, to be honest with you, Ryan.
Yeah, I couldn't either. I mean, I guess I'm not like following like, oh, hey, look who we have. I'm not following broadcast free or the broadcast market, but no, it was shocking news. I know he's very loved on the South Side and a very good broadcaster. Like I mostly see him on like the national broadcast, but very good broadcaster. And I guess might as well ask the number one Nick Madrigal hater about his feelings about Jason Benetti.
I have a lot of feelings, mainly Cody. What does I always do that wrong whenever you're supposed to. What does this say?
CHGO Cubs Podcast.
Okay. Yeah. All right. He left the White Sox. He's going to the Tigers. This does not concern you.
Yeah, I know, but like it's news. Like it was surprising stuff. Like I don't know. I honestly thought actually this was just my ploy to try and get you on the show, Sean.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I've just been hanging out. It's been a great show. I've loved listening to it, and I love when Ryan's like, "Hey, do you have any questions?" You're like, "No, nothing." No. Ryan, are you sick? Do you feel okay?
No, I feel perfectly fine. I told Cody this earlier. I haven't made any trips to the toilet for things coming out of either side, so I'm feeling good. But actually, I was going to say, Sean, it does concern Cody a bit because the statement said that Len Casper is going to remain on the radio, who is a former Cubs broadcaster. So there's your Cubs
spin zone. There's your
Cubs connection.
Well, and I think the Cubs connection too is just this is Craig Counsell, but just broadcasting. I mean, but honestly, worse. Like this is like if the Brewers got Boog, which I don't think you got. It's like.
That wouldn't bother
It's like if the Brewers got Pat Hughes, and maybe that's a little bit too hefty because Pat Hughes has had a lot more time with the Cubs than Benetti has with the White Sox. But like, this is ridiculous. How do you let him? If Benetti was leaving, it was going to be for a national job, not the Tigers' job, not the same job within the division. This is pathetic beyond belief. I got a show at 2:00, whatever. But I mean, this is just sickening. I'm not gonna go to what's Homer Flosswood and paint spray paint ass on it, just like the lovely Milwaukeeans. But oh boy, am I frustrated, and I might go do it at 35th and Shields.
Well, we'll let you save that for the Sox show. I'm actually curious, Sean, from the opposite side of town, having gone through a managerial hire process last season. What did you think of the Craig Counsell news on Monday and just what we've seen come out the last couple of days?
I mean, what I've seen in the past couple of days, and obviously no moves have been made, right? So the White Sox could be still acquiring Otani. So, never say never. But it does seem if the Cubs are truly going for it, that this is a move that absolutely signals that. And everything surrounding the Cubs has been extremely positive about how aggressive they're being. So what was the question again, Ryan?
What did you think of all that from a Sox fan perspective?
Okay. How I was trying to connect it was, it seemed like the White Sox are always constrained by their budget, and it can't be difficult, right? It can't be them changing the status quo. What I think the best move for the White Sox was last year was to go out and get Joe Espada from the Astros. And it was rumored that they were incredibly interested in him, but that he wanted to bring out a bigger staff, and, you know, that would be more money. So goodbye. That's way too big of an idea for us. You can't start spending money here, Joe Espada. You don't have the job. So yeah, it just seemed like they knew Craig Counsell could do the job that was needed. The Cubs seem like a serious organization. And I know that Cody last year, after the season ended, Tom sent out a mass email to the fans, and you were like kind of pissy about it. And I responded, and I'm like, the only thing White Sox fans get are ticket sales emails. There's no statement from the chairman. There's no statement from whoever. It is just buy tickets, and no one's buying tickets. No one's watching games. This move does not make sense. At least the Benetti one, and the manager thing is just a symbol of what the White Sox, or at least what White Sox fans are sick of, is the fact that Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't seem to be an actual serious manager. And at least with Tom, them going out and getting Craig Counsell, they knew who they wanted. They weren't going to mess around. They said, "You want $40 million? Cool, let's do it. Sign on the line."
Yeah, I've definitely had my complaints about the Ricketts family, but I have always realized that they're a better ownership group than Jerry. I am a Bulls fan, so I understand how Jerry works. So yeah, no, I guess the Benetti stuff, one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up was just because, like, it was just so shocking. Like, I couldn't believe that, like, they let the hometown guy, he's a White Sox fan, like, they didn't find a way to get him back or whatever. Like, I just couldn't believe it. So I feel bad for you, my friend, today. Big of me to say.
And Benetti said that it's like when they were negotiating a contract last year, he felt like he was a player in arbitration with, negotiating a contract. That doesn't sound fun, so it seems like it's very easy, where the Tigers probably did the Craig Counsell thing and said, "Hey, we want this guy. We know he's a professional. We know he's under 40 and can relate to a modern day baseball fan. Let's not F around, and let's go sign him to a real deal." And, he probably said, "Thank God," and, took that quick trip up to Detroit. So, Ryan, I have one question, and we'll get you out of here. Is this the first time Jed's speaking? No?
No. He's spoken throughout the week.
Okay. Has a big emphasis from him been pitching? Because it seems like that's like an MLB emphasis, and I'm trying to figure out if the White Sox should trade Dylan Cease if everyone's interested in pitching.
I know he has. Pitching is always a priority, right? Like he says it all the time that you can never have enough pitching. You always want more good pitching and more good pitching. You think you have depth, and then you end up not really having the depth that you thought you did. But I think specifically what he's been asked about bullpen wise is he says there's a high priority on fixing the bullpen, which is something me and Cody have chatted about earlier in the show. That just like the bullpen was not up to the standards that it had seemed to be the last couple of years prior, where it felt like one of their strengths for majority of the season. Like this season, it didn't feel that way the whole time. For a good chunk of it, it did, right? Like during that summer, it did, but just did not live up to what the Cubs obviously hoped. So as far as the bullpen goes, I think Jed has said that there's going to be, a high priority placed on fixing it and getting the right arms and doing, better developing some of the younger arms in the system to come up and be able to help in relief. As far as starting pitching goes, we have not heard anything about the Cubs trading for Dylan Cease, but that's not a possibility, right? Like that's also a possibility anywhere. So we'll see.
I like to play on baseball trade values, and that website's the Bible. So if it says that a trade is workable, I can send that to Chris Getz, and then he could call up Jed Hoyer, and they can make a deal. What would you say, Jackson Ferris? And I know the last time you saw this guy, your new first baseman, Christopher Morel, hit a homer off of him. But Jackson Ferris for Gregory Santos. Who says no?
I think the Cubs say no.
I think the Cubs say no. However, it's not that I don't think Santos is intriguing. He did look pretty good in the game before. That was one game that I watched Gregory Santos pitch. But
yeah, and he was really good, right? You should do the trade. You should do the trade. I think it's a good trade. I think it's a great trade.
If there's a White Sox player that I would love the Cubs to have, it's actually Aaron Bummer. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jackson Ferris for Aaron Bummer. Deal. Let's do it. It's a very easy drive from 35th and Shields to Ashland or where is it? Waveland and whatever. Waveland and
Addison.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Okay. For the people in the chat, this is Sean Anderson from CHGO White Sox. And we admittedly made him sit in our green room or whatever you want to call it for the entire hour because we thought Ryan might have
pulled a prank.
You can say we pulled a prank, but we also thought that maybe Ryan would have had to go because Jed Hoyer is supposed to talk here in the next few minutes or something. And yeah, he didn't end up having to go. So, Sean, we made you sit here for a whole hour and listen to us talk about the Cubs.
It was great.
You guys
did a great job.
We got you.
You guys got me.
If you ever need us to, I guess, sit in the background, and if you need a Cubs guy, I guess I can offer my service.
I think if anything, we're probably gonna lean to invite Ryan. No offense, just because I think Vinny would appreciate the Mizzou connection.
That's fair.
Sure. That's Cody does hate Mizzou.
Yeah, that's the only reason. But I mean, honestly, the flip side, if Vinny's out, then I mean, you're the guy to go to because then Herb's the Illini guy. So
yeah.
I mean, you guys are very versatile. And then, I mean, no one wants Stuckey. So.
Well, you guys definitely don't want Stuckey. Stuckey's the Sox hater of this show.
He's always sick.
And he's sick, yes. And he's always sick.
Get him away from me.
All right. Well, that's today's show. Corey and Brennan are tomorrow at 1:20, not live, Barb. Will not be live, but their show will be up at 1:20 on our CHGO Sports YouTube channel, Corey and Brennan. Me, Ryan, and Luke will be back on Monday, unless there's like some kind of crazy news that drops, like the Cubs sign Otani. Will definitely be available almost immediately if they sign Otani over the weekend. But yeah, Ryan,
can I give a shout out?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say real quick, Cody, do you want to tell us about Goose Island beer real quick?
Crap. I totally forgot about those ads. Thanks for the reminder. I'm just all over the place. I blame Luke for not being here. Goose Island Beer Company is the official beer of CHGO. It's Chicago's beer since 1988. They have the Oktoberfest, the Beer Hug family, which is one of my favorites, that tropical 9.9% one. There'll be plenty of people drinking that at the Bears tailgate today. They got the 312, and then, of course, the full pocket Pilsner, which is my favorite any time of the year. Like I said, we got the Bears tailgate today where there'll be plenty of Goose Island and all kinds of events that we have with the Bulls and the Blackhawks this winter coming up. So shout out to Goose Island. Grab Ultra Fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
Cody, what shirt are you wearing?
I'm wearing the Skyline shirt.
Oh, wow. Look. And if you go to chgolocker.com, you can go see the CHGO Skyline shirt. You can also see the hats are here. You can get the dad hat like I'm wearing. And we also got 3 different flat brim styles. I think one of them's like the white one's like a golf hat. That's like a snapback. I'm the dad hat guy. You know, I don't really stray away from this style. So the other ones don't really interest me, but I know Herb ordered like every single one of them. So go check out the hats at chgolocker.com. And I was going to call you Herb, Cody. Today, you mentioned the tailgate. X Golf is going to be giving away a $200 gift certificate to any of their Chicagoland locations for the final tailgate today. Find the nearest X Golf near you at playxgolf.com/Chicagoland. I'm not sure if we have any more tickets for the tailgate, but check out allchgo.com/events for tickets. Diehards get 20% off the event, and when you sign up, you get a t-shirt and a nice box of stuff. You level up your fandom, you get sticker and a nice little card as well. Shout out to Barb in the chat. I know she's your guys' favorite. She's calling me the bum of the week, and that's fantastic because Les Grobstein was my guy, and I used to produce that show. And you know, I mean, Barb, I appreciate that you just think that this is a Cubs channel only.
Yeah, Barb. She is. She's a national treasure. I think that's a good way to explain it.
A national treasure is a great way.
There you go.
She's a national treasure. Is there anything else, Ryan?
No, there we
let you go. We're good.
Let's do it.
All right.
Have fun with Otani.
Yes. Again, we'll do emergency podcast if something crazy happens over the weekend. Otherwise, me and Ryan will see everyone on Monday with Luke, and Corey and Brendan tomorrow at 1:20. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.